Now, one thing that can really help you as a tortoise keeper is community. Yesterday I saw a post for spineless Apuntia cactus. Now this is true spineless. I mean, no spines at all. It is beautiful. We have our ceftazidime thawed out, so it's ready for injection. It's not really about the frequency of soaking the tortoises. It's actually about how long you soak them for. Seeing some bubble action coming up from behind him, so I think he's actually farting in the water while he's eating his banana. So about 2 weeks ago, I noticed that Juno had bubbles coming out of her nares or nostrils, as well as a little bit coming out of her mouth as well, and she was not eating, which is really a big deal for baby tortoises. Now, if left untreated, an upper respiratory can very easily turn into pneumonia, which is far worse and much harder to tackle. Now, with Juno, she has been on a regimen of ceftazidime injectable. This is once every other day, injected into the breast muscle. She is also getting gentamicin nasal drops. Being that her nares are so close together, it really only takes one drop. Now, the antibiotic I'm using for Juno is ceftazidime. This is a injectable antibiotic that needs to be stored frozen. You'll notice that right now it has a milky white opaque color to it. That's how you know it's frozen. You'll also notice that there's quite a bit of air left in the syringe. This is because while it freezes, it actually expands. And if that air was not there, when it freezes, it would come out of the needle hub here and you would lose the medication. Now, you really only need to thaw this with your own body heat. It really only takes about maybe 60 seconds or so. It's pretty quick. And you can see now, it is actually already clear, like water. Now this is how you know that it's ready to be injected into the tortoise. So I'm gonna try to figure out how to do this one-handed here, or maybe I can set up this tripod on the GoPro. Let's see how this works. Now, when injecting ceftazidime, it is a intramuscular injection, so you don't want to have it be subcutaneous. So we're not going to hit it in the normal areas where we would inject a subcutaneous injection, like the rear legs or the pockets in between the neck and the front legs. So what we're going to do is get our excess air out of the syringe. We have our ceftazidime thawed out, so it's ready for injection. And there's a triangle here and here on the breast muscle where it's safe to inject. Now, let's see if we can get her to quit moving around a little bit. This is tough to keep track of the shot and inject her at the same time, but we're going to take priority over the injection here. Now, we're just going to stick this into the muscle here. We're going to pull back to check we have negative pressure, which means the plunger is going to keep trying to recorrect itself to its original location. We're just going to stick this into the muscle here. You don't have to go very far. And just slowly inject. And that's how you give a intramuscular injection to a little baby tortoise. Now the next step for Juno's treatment is going to be the gentamicin nasal drops. Again, her nares are close enough together to where we only really need to give one drop. Now this is actually marketed as a ophthalmic solution, so if it does get in the eyes, it's completely fine. It's not going to hurt the tortoise. So we're going to get our drops and our tortoise, and all we're going to do is just hold it right above the nares and instill one drop, and you're done. That's it. Now the ceftazidime intramuscular injection, as well as the gentamicin nasal drops, is going to be very low stress for your tortoise. After about a month of treatment, their upper respiratory infection should pass. Now, this begs the question, how do you spot a sick tortoise? A healthy tortoise should always be hungry, moving around the enclosure, thermoregulating, as well as breathing normally. Now, what I mean by breathing normally is there should not be bubbles coming out of the nares or the nostrils. There should not be bubbles coming out of the mouth. If your tortoise is very lethargic and not moving around very much, it's not eating, it is probably sick, and I highly recommend you take your tortoise to an exotic veterinarian. Standard veterinarians might not be up to date on treating reptiles, so if you can, I would highly recommend going with an exotic veterinarian. Now, unfortunately, with some young tortoises, they can go through what is known as hatchling failure syndrome. Usually this means that the tortoise fails to thrive. Now, I do have mixed feelings about this terminology. Now, I will admit, sometimes in nature, this happens. and a young baby animal, hatchling, whatever, just fails to thrive because it lacks what it needs to thrive. It may have developmental challenges, some kind of birth defect that may be internal that you can't see just looking at it. But I do find that in most cases this can be avoided just by giving these guys their correct enclosure, correct substrate, correct diet, correct lighting, making sure that they are adequately hydrated. Now, when it comes to tortoise hydration, especially for younger tortoises, I actually found in my recent research that it's not really about the frequency of soaking the tortoises, it's actually about how long you soak them for. I would recommend for a young tortoise at this point, based on new information that I have learned, I would recommend soaking a young or baby tortoise maybe 2 to 3 times a week. Now, I would soak them for about 45 minutes to an hour. When I spoke to the exotic vet where I took Juno in Orlando, I was actually informed that a great way to do this is to get a safe heating pad. We're going to get a towel over that heating pad. We'll get a Sterilite container with a lid. Obviously, we're going to have a few holes poked in that lid just for some ventilation. And we're going to fill that water just to the coastal scutes of that tortoise's carapace. Now, what the heat is going to do to that water is it's actually going to give kind of a sauna effect. So it's going to be great for the respiratory system, going to give them nice clear breathing, as well as hydration. Now, to those new owners out there that are maybe struggling with their young tortoises, they don't know what to do, their tortoise isn't eating for them, I would highly recommend going to an exotic vet. If there is not an exotic vet near you, please, please, please feel free to email me at spacecoasttortoises@gmail.com, and I will gladly try to help you as much as I can. Now, I myself am in the veterinary field. I have been in the veterinary field for 7+ years at this point. Now, although I don't know everything, I may know enough to help you get your tortoise back on its feet, back to where it's eating normally, eating regularly, and its enclosure is set up correctly. Now, before we work with any other tortoises, we're just going to wash our hands here. Especially if you have a sick tortoise, you do not want to pass on any pathogens to your healthy tortoises. So we just want to make sure that we really scrub our hands really well, get under the nails, all that stuff. You guys should know how to wash your hands, right? I shouldn't have to tell you. Now, one thing that can really help you as a tortoise keeper is community. There's lots of other tortoise keepers out there that are very passionate about their reptiles and tortoises. I myself am in a few tortoise Facebook groups, reptile Facebook groups. Now, yesterday I really scored. Yesterday I saw a post for spineless Apuntia cactus. Now, this is true spineless. I mean, no spines at all. It is beautiful. I would estimate this is probably about 100 pounds of spineless Apuntia cactus. This is a great, fantastic feed for your tortoise. It is high in calcium, very great for hydration as well as the digestive system. This is definitely a staple feed for tortoises. Now, these larger pieces that are really thick and very dense, I would recommend planting these. I'm probably going to plant probably about 75% of these, kind of get a good crop going. This way, when I do sell tortoises, I can include a few of these pads with the tortoise, so then new tortoise keepers will have their own supply. Again, it's a great food to feed your tortoises, and once it gets going, it really grows like a weed. Now, when planting these, it's actually super easy. You're just going to hold it upright and plant it about halfway in the ground, just like this. The dirt level will probably be about here, and that is it. I would recommend using kind of a sandy soil substrate, something that drains water easily. These guys aren't going to require a whole lot of water, so you also don't have to worry about your water bill skyrocketing just by growing these things. Now, I'm going to see if I can beat this storm that is starting to loom over the property here. Let's see if we can give these guys some of this cactus. Now, as I've said in a few videos, that tortoises' sense of smell is actually quite amazing. So if they're not really going for the whole cactus pad, what you can do is break off the tip. This way it opens up the plant. All those smells are released. Just toss those over their redfoots. Now he's going to smell this cactus pad a lot easier. There's my beautiful boy. Now again, these cactus pads are high in calcium, high in fiber, a great source of hydration, as they carry a lot of water. There you go, bud. And you can see that these guys just rip into this. There you go, bud. Now these thicker, wider pieces, they're going to be a little tougher than the tender young cactuses that you might have on some new growth. This older cactus is going to be a lot more fibrous, a lot tougher, and so you may need to cut it up for your tortoises. Tess here is quite a large sulcata, so I don't think I really need to do that for him. He's got pretty powerful jaws. Now these cactus pads are also a great enrichment for them. If you have a couple of them, you can always just kind of put them all over the enclosure, and they can use their natural foraging behavior to look for these. Now enrichment is super important for all tortoises, all reptiles, all animals really. Any animal in captivity, if they are not happy, they will fail to thrive. You got to make these guys happy, and you got to keep them healthy if you want them to thrive in captivity. It is an absolute privilege that we are even allowed to have these majestic animals. So let's not squander this, and let's try to give these guys the best possible life. Now another great food to grow for your tortoises is hibiscus. They come in a variety of colors. I find that my younger tortoises absolutely love the leaves, and all tortoises love the flowers. This is like crack to them. And you can see here that they have totally torn up all the leaves here on this one, and all the leaves they could reach on this one here. There's the culprit. And we got some redfoots over here. Alright, and now for the redfoots, we have some cactus as well that I cut up just because it's a bit too big. They don't have quite the jaw strength as Tess. We got some Missouri pellet. I keep them dry for the adults. They just swallow them whole. It's a lot less messy. And we also have a nice sugary banana for these redfoots as well. Again, you only want to feed fruit to species that can take a lot of fruit, such as redfoots, yellowfoots, cherryheads. These guys are built to handle the fruit. If you give too much fruit to a sulcata, for example, it can actually shock their system. Their digestive system is not meant to handle all that fruit and all that sugar. So we're just going to get these cactus bits with the Missouri here. And I think I'm going to hand feed this banana. Now, I don't typically take the skin off. They don't mind the skin at all. I just open the tip here just so they get that smell, and look at her go. I'm seeing some bubble action coming up from behind him, so I think he's actually farting in the water while he's eating his banana. You guys. Sorry for interrupting. I am going to save a little bit of this banana for the young guys here, as they do love it as well. And I think I'll just break it up here over their food. And again, may take the stem here. It might be a little much for them. Now, what can happen with tortoises that are breeding is sometimes a male can be flipped over. Now, thankfully, this is not a super hot day, so we're just going to get this female out of here, and we're going to flip over Doug here. If it was a hot day and he was flipped upside down, that is going to just bake him right in the shell, and I would come home to a dead tortoise. So very important to keep up with these guys. I do plan on getting some cameras installed in these enclosures just so I can keep a sharp eye on these guys. And you can see that Tess is still going to work on these pads. He absolutely loves these things. And we're keeping their enclosures nice and clean, fresh water. You can see there's very little to no algae in here. Every now and then I will come in and scrub these water bowls. Every animal does deserve fresh, clean water available at all times. No exceptions. Doesn't matter if they live in the desert, they still need water. And we have the Burmese stars. I did throw some spring mix in here earlier. Looks like there's not very much left. They're also eating the grass, which is a great thing. I really wanted them to be eating a lot more grass, a lot more weeds, as it's much better for their diet. Now with these cactus pads, I will likely be planting them tomorrow, as we're about to get poured on here by the storm. I'm probably going to switch them out with these cacti here. These do have little tiny spines, which I'm not a fan of. I much prefer the cacti with absolutely no spines. If you do have cactus with spines, you can always just burn the spines off. A lot of tortoise keepers feel that it doesn't even bother the tortoises to have spines on it, but me in particular, I wouldn't want to eat cactus that has spines on it, so I'm going to give them the spineless cactus here. So tomorrow I'm going to get some nice gloves on. We're going to take out all this old cactus and figure out something to do with it. I might just feed it, and we're going to replace it with this spineless cactus. We're going to line it up with this wall here, so as it grows, I can maybe try to manipulate it with some rope or something, or string, to where it grows kind of over the enclosures to this side. This way, as it hangs, they can just kind of munch on it as it grows lower and lower. And when I trim it, all the trimmings will just fall directly into the enclosures. We gotta try to work smarter, not harder, right? All right, guys, so I think that'll be it for today's video. I will try to catch you guys next week. Hope you guys enjoy the content. I do want to give a more in-depth hatchling care tutorial video, but unfortunately the weather is not agreeing with me today. Anyways, hope you guys enjoy the content. Hope some of this information will help you either now or in the future. And again, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to contact me at spacecoasttortoises@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.